Welcome to this week's video tutorial for Virtual Racing School with the Global Mazda MX-5 Cup Series. This week takes us to Lime Rock Park, a short layout but one with challenging high-speed corners and awkward undulations. The lap I've driven is of course in default weather, and I'll play the lap through in full before then going into further analysis. Okay, so that was a 57.732. Okay, so to start things off on the VRS websites, from the list of data packs, you want to choose the Global MX-5 Cup Series and choose week 3 from the list, Lime Rock Park, which loads up the session details where you can download lap data, a replay, and of course it uses the iRacing baseline setup. Click on Learn Track to load up the analyzer, which will play the lap through. Just going to pause it and explain these charts. We've got a steering angle trace, a speed trace across the duration of the lap, brake and throttle chart, and some live driving inputs as well. So at the top we're going to select Sector 1, which is normally the run from the start finish line to the braking zone for turn 1. So I'm just going to slow this down to half speed and play it through. You've got these braking markers on your left here. You're going to look for that number 2 and brake just after. So we're going to Sector 2 for that. Don't need to brake hard at all on this circuit anywhere. Turn 1 is going to be the hardest braking zone on the whole circuit, and the only place in fact where you need to downshift. So I'm actually right foot braking into this corner because I want to heel and toe on those downshifts, but for the rest of the circuit I'm actually left foot braking. So yeah, braking just after that number 2 marker, fairly gently. Only briefly there am I exceeding 50% brake pedal input. You can see that I'm blipping the throttle twice to downshift twice into 3rd gear. And you can also see how I'm not quite able to perfectly maintain my brake pressure during those blips, but it's good enough. Now, aiming for your first of 2 apexes in this corner whilst kind of balancing the car for oversteer. So obviously you want to carry a lot of speed into this corner, and that will provoke a little bit of oversteer, which we can see in the steering trace up here. And we'll go to chase view as well, because I just want to show you how we've hit our first apex, which is the middle of this first curb on the right. You don't want to use too much of that curb, and then the ideal line will kind of take you towards the middle of the circuit, where you've got these concrete patched areas, which are slightly cambered into the corner as well, which is good, but don't allow the car to drift too wide. That's quite important. And you'll see that I'm playing with the throttle a few times in quite an ugly fashion, really. That's to provoke the car into rotating. If I was just to gradually get into the throttle to push me out onto that perfect line, the car would just understeer. So by getting into the throttle on and off in this fashion, I'm provoking the car to rotate a little bit better. Spotting your second apex at this point then, still in 3rd gear, and aiming to pick up the throttle just as you reach this second apex. So yeah, at full throttle now for the exit, opening the car up, using all of the circuit, Didn't actually need to use this curb this time because I'm trying to bring the car back over to the right hand side for a nice wide entry into the next left-hander. So we'll just play that through. So turning in while still flat out, take it to sector 3 for this. So I'm still flat out whilst I'm turning in, and I'm aiming for a really late apex. So I'm off the throttle quite late, but I'm not fully to the inside because my apex is going to be all the way around here, so quite a late one. Teasing the brakes as I go around here just to keep the front end loaded up. That helps the car to rotate, and I actually breathed into the throttle here because I thought I was on too tight a line at that point, but unfortunately, as we'll see, I'm just going to miss the apex by a very small margin where I pick up the throttle. So you need to be on the throttle just before the apex here. That's very important, but unfortunately my line was just a bit too wide there, so I wasn't quite on the ideal line. Still got away with it. The important thing is to keep a tight line through the exit, which is going to open up the next right-hander, and you should be able to keep it absolutely flat out through there if you've got your line nailed. And fortunately I'm able to get away as well with getting really close to this curb, which you need to do, but what you need to avoid doing is running over the top of that curb, because that will really unsettle the car. So that was nice, hooked up into the camber of the road, lifting there just to upshift into 4th gear, using that curb on the left, and then taking a nice straight line through along No Name Straight to the fast uphill right of 5, where the only real reference that you've got is this section of tyres in the Armco there. You're going to brake just after you finish where that ends, basically. So it's going to be in the corner of your vision. You need to be looking at your apex at this point. I'm fully positioned to the edge of the circuit, almost at the grass here, and it's a very, very fast corner, so I'm just going to dab the brakes and play with the throttle on the entry just to stabilize the car. You don't need to do that, but then the important thing is I pick up the throttle quite abruptly, and you'll see that it's before the apex itself when I actually pick up the throttle here. So I've lifted, dabbed the brakes, and I'm already on the throttle before I've apexed. The speed that the car has got at this stage is carrying me on a wide arc through the corner, and even though I'm aimed kind of inside of the apex curb here, the speed of the car is going to push me through the corner, resulting in me just running along the edge of the apex there, which is ideal. And I've got enough speed that's really going to push me. So at the moment I'm on too wide a line really if this was any other corner, but because it's really steeply uphill on the exit, the car will compress into the tarmac and you get extra grip, so you need to anticipate that. Up the hill, car goes really, really light, and fortunately you've got some extra tarmac runoff on the exit, which I take advantage of. The only thing is obviously you need to be back on the racing surface by the time you reach the grass there. Keep the car to the left as you approach turn 6 west bend. Now again, there's not really a reference for this corner, unfortunately. You've got this group of tall trees which casts some shadows, but of course in different weather conditions those shadows are going to move. We'll go to sector 5, and you want to be spotting your apex at this point. And notice on the entry I'm teasing the brake just to keep the front end loaded up, but I'm kind of playing with the throttle as I do so just to counteract that and stabilize the car. So I'm just balancing on the edge of adhesion through this corner. Very, very fast corner. Leave it in 4th gear, so I've turned in on a tighter line than these concrete patched areas. Play that through. So that's really nice. I'm right next to the curb on the inside at the apex, and I'm also hard on the throttle at that point as well. And again, really close to this curb but not actually going over the top of it, because that will really upset the balance of the car. Able to keep it full throttle, just about enough track available. Some corrections for oversteer on the exit. Just take it to chase view here, so you can see I'm using all of that exit curb down the hill. And then down the hill you want to be turning in for the final corner, which is not far off being flat out actually, but you need to turn in just before you reach the bottom of the hill. And simultaneously, as you're turning in, if you are going to lift, you want it to be nice and early so that you can be flat out through the actual corner itself. So I take a nice early lift back into full throttle before I reach the apex, and you want to hook up nice and tight into the apex again, get as close to this curb as possible, again without going along it, and then hopefully you've got enough track left available for you to keep the car flat out. Small correction for oversteer there as I reach the curb, and I simultaneously upshift up to 5th gear. So fortunately I was just nice, nailed the final corner, and eventually across the line to complete the lap. You can find all setups, replays and telemetry for your own use and analysis on virtualracingschool.com, where you can also book one-on-one tuition with top drivers from the likes of Commander Simsport. Good luck for this week, and feel free to post any questions or comments below. Thanks for watching.